Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith and I'm your host. And if you're new to it, I'm Steve Smith and I'm your host. And if you're a frequent listener, I'm still Steve Smith and your host. Now, I'm just going to say quickly that you've probably noticed that there was a little gap in recordings to put out there for you, a gap last week. I've been working on something that's taking me quite some time. It's been 18 months in the making. It's a segment for Aussie golf history, and it's going to come out very soon, and that consumed me a bit last week. And to some of you out there who I've been chatting with, you probably know our newborn son Carter is a little bit unwell at the moment, but I've been working on lots of things in the background in between, and I was hoping to get Aussie golf history out for you last week. It didn't quite happen. I had to have a few late additions for that one, so that's coming soon. But without further ado, this one's really exciting. This is another episode, another segment of Colin Campbell Chemicals' Keeper of the Greens, which I know intrigues everyone. It's one of the more popular segments of the podcast, and one that I have a great time chatting with different superintendents and greenkeepers from all over Australia. Colin Campbell Chemicals' Keeper of the Greens is this one. It's a really great Aussie story. You are going to love it. We are going to a golf course and a golf club somewhere that I'm sure you have no idea, you may not have even heard of, you probably have never thought about. You will really enjoy this yarn. Come along with me for the ride and my guests. This is episode number 71. Ladies and gentlemen, Nadeem's Nuggets is back. I have Nadeem on the line, and we've got something very special to tell you. Nadeem, tell us what's happening, mate.
Yeah, g'day, Steve. Yeah, so this is it's a little bit different. I've had this in the pipeline for a couple of years, but with the COVID restrictions and border closures, I haven't been able to do it. But we are holding a Power Forum /seminar on the 25th of October in Melbourne at the famous Woodlands Golf Club on the Sandbelt.
Fantastic, mate. That's going to be unreal. Very excited to have this one on offer to everyone listening to the greenkeeping industry, the broader greenkeeping industry. Mate, what's it about? Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so pretty much I'm having two speakers on the day. First speaker is Dr. Jim Brosnan from University of Tennessee, who I've known for quite a number of years now. He's going to be speaking via Zoom, but it'll be an interactive session. So Jim has been an expert on POA for a number of years. He's a weed scientist, and he does a lot of research on POA. So he is going to present on a lot of the latest information, groundbreaking work that he's done on POA, and he'll have a discussion there in regards to it. So he's going to be on for a good 2 to 3 hours. And then I've also got locally Dr. Peter Batsalis from the University of Adelaide and his company Plant Science Consulting, which he's going to be talking about resistance work he's been doing with the turf industry. So he's been doing a lot with POA and resistance-wise, but he's also very much in the broad acre side of what he does, his main side of it, and the learnings we can take from him and apply it to the turf sector as well. So I've got both of them there on, and I've also got just a general discussion as well in regards to POA in general afterwards.
Fantastic, mate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's from our sponsors, Colin Campbell Chemicals, for Nadeem's Nuggets. Now, Nadeem, just remind us again where and when and what have we got to do to make sure we get a seat?
Yep, so it is limited numbers because I can only fit so many in the venue. So Tuesday, the 25th of October at Woodlands Golf Club in Mordialloc in Victoria. Time starts at 8 o'clock, finishes at 2 o'clock. You do have to register via a link, which we can put in the show notes, powerforum.block2u.com. We'll have it on our Facebook page pinned there. And it will be advertised out in some other industry publications as well.
Fantastic, mate. That's sensational. As a footnote, I'm going to be down there. So I'm excited to meet everyone. It's a learning exercise, a learning experience, and everyone's a celebrity now because of this podcast. So everyone's going to be there, going to be part of it. I'll be doing a podcast, Campbell's Corner, from down there with you, mate. So this is really exciting. Lots of parts involved and certainly centered around learning about POA and something that really people can sink their teeth into to learn a lot more, mate. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Nadeem. That's awesome.
No, thank you, Steve.
Look forward to seeing everyone down there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, and this is Keeper of the Green segment. Big fan of this one, as you all know, and I know that you guys out there are listening too. So, one of the things that I love doing as well, and this is the beauty of this, is I get to virtually, we're traveling across Australia, anywhere in Australia, wherever I feel like stopping. And it's not just talking about the courses that we all know and love. It's not just talking about the golf courses on the Gold Coast or the popular ones and the private ones of Adelaide or the Sandbelt or wherever it might be, the Barn Bugles of the world. This is also about talking to people that work on golf courses and talking about golf courses that you might not know about, that have interesting things to talk about and they're interesting parts of this country. So, without further ado, I have on the line from Broome Golf Club in the far northwest of Western Australia, Superintendent Jason Johnson. G'day, Jason. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Steve. Good, yourself?
Mate, I am very well and I am pumped, I will say, to have you on this podcast, mate. I know now you're I'm surprised there's not a time delay in this conversation. It's like calling an international number.
It does feel that way, hey, sometimes.
Now, and I will point out, it's Jason Johnson talking to Steve Smith. Now, we are both real people. These are not aliases.
Sounds like spy names, eh? Something we put on a passport.
We could probably do that. I'll be 007. Well, the 7th of October is my birthday. You can be 008. How's that?
Sounds good, mate.
All right, mate. Now, thank you for being on this, mate. This is something a little bit different. Have you ever been on a podcast before?
No, I've never been on a podcast, but I actually used to be on a little community radio show down in Augusta.
Oh, no way. Serious?
Yeah. We used to do a little sports community radio show. And for everyone listening, that's not Augusta National.
No, that's Augusta. Augusta is the most southwestern point of Australia's mainland. Is that correct?
It is,
The divide of the Indian Ocean and the Southern Ocean. Is that the point?
That's the one, yep.
Mate, I remember being there when I was much younger, travelling as a family. I love WA. This is what intrigues me. I love going around the country, and so we'll get to that part of your story. But community radio, so that means that you're actually more experienced at this shit than I am.
Oh, no way! I don't have your voice, mate. I don't have those sultry tones.
No,
it was a little community radio show. I think we probably had about 3 listeners, and that was my mum and my wife.
Stop it. And then you on replay. Is that it? Is that the 3?
Yeah.
Very good, mate. Now, well, you know what? I'm curious about that. How did you get into radio, community radio?
Yeah, so I was where I was working at the time. Like, we had a function at the community centre.
Yep.
And they had a radio. They had a little radio, I don't know what you call that, office or broadcasting thing up the top of the community centre.
Okay.
And I hit it off with this bloke there who was like one of the main presenters. And they were actually doing a show up the top at the same time the thing was on, and he asked me to come up and just join in.
Mid-function?
And I'd had a few beers, so I was like, yeah.
What a ripper.
And it was I just had a wicked time. And
that's
this bloke
so good.
Yeah, we just hit it off. So he's like, oh, we should do a show. And I'm like, yeah, I'm keen. So we started a show.
That's so good. All right. Well, that's great to hear. Like I said, I feel intimidated now.
No. It didn't go for ages. It went for a while, and then my wife got contracted pregnancy, and it all sort of ended.
Very, very, very quickly and short-lived. So a brief stint on radio. Wow. Well, you could say you've been on radio on the airwaves, the true airwaves. This is digital stuff. This is different from the old days, but it's still just as entertaining and fun to be part of, and hopefully fun for everyone listening. Now, mate, we know that you're superintendent of Broome Golf Club. We've got that established. You're up the far northwestern reaches of the Australian mainland, I should say, in WA, and we're going to start off with Steve's Super 7. I've given everyone an idea of where we're going to be going to talk, but let's start with a little bit of quick fun. Steve's Super 7 questions. You ready to go?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, mate, let's go. Number 1, sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise, definitely.
The first West Australian that I believe that has said that. There you go.
I love sunrise, yeah.
And but I don't know, because it sets obviously over the water, and on the east we all say, sunrise is beautiful, it rises over the water, but I'm already interested at a different answer. All right, number 2, dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course?
Depends on the dog.
Depends on the dog.
I'd say generally no dogs. Yeah.
Generally no dogs. Okay, fair enough. Number 3, stripes or no stripes on fairways?
Yeah, I reckon depends on the course too. For me, no
come on,
stripe.
you got to be fence sitting for all seven questions.
No. But it depends on the environment so much, right?
It
like
does.
Your topography and everything. Like you can't say one thing's good for one course and not good for. To me, I like no stripes.
Okay.
In Broome. Yeah.
Yep. But you're saying very much that, and I do agree with you 100%. And I think a lot of people do as well, that it is very much horses for courses, and in this instance, stripes for courses. But because it sets the tone, also the lay of the land, the feel of the area, the vibe, as it were, from the castle, the movie. So it's all part of it. Yeah. Now, number 4, after a golf shot, do you prefer people to replace their divot or put sand down?
Sand
down?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good stuff. Now, number 5, what's your favourite grass variety, mate?
I guess it's hard. Like, we have cooch here. I like bent grass. Yeah,
bent grass.
Just purity of the part. It's just you just get a really good pure putting surface, I find. Well, yeah.
Nice.
I want to see more in the cooches, and I guess we'll get to that.
Yep.
At the moment, we're going to go through all that. But right now, it's bent grass.
Bent grass. Good stuff. Very popular. Well done. Number 6, your favourite bunkers, your favourite bunker style. Is it multiple choice? Kingston Heath, Royal Adelaide, or the Australian in Sydney? Now, I'm sorry, I don't have a WA selection in there, but these are all East Coast. Well, Royal Adelaide's not exactly East. So, Kingston Heath, Royal Adelaide, or the Australian. What is your pick?
So, Kingston Heath.
Kingston Heath. Okay, Lovely. Very popular as well. Now, number 7, if you could visit one... Now, this is going to be a tester because I know you've got a pretty good list from memory, and we've spoken loosely, I believe. So, if you could visit one golf course anywhere in the world tomorrow, which one would it be for you, mate?
I think, this would be funny, I think, for most... If I'm considering I could go to any course, but for me, it would probably be Broome, because, I remember when I was studying at TAFE, I had this for a big one for, I don't know, motivation and things like that. And above my computer when I studied, I had a picture of Broome, and that was pretty soon after that they were sort of in the process of develop. It just sort of opened not long before that. And it was I just loved it. I just think it sits so well in the environment. And I guess I just always liked looking at it. So, Broome for me. I've never been there. I really want to get there.
It's funny because you do get a lot out of photographs of Broome, don't you? I mean, I was similar in a sense, and I know a lot of people who have been similar, where they see photos and they go, wow, it just looks, it's got such a beautiful feel to it. It sits really well in the environment there. And these are from photographs, right? Does that? I think that's quite telling on how well a job they actually did building it and how it's been maturing over the years, because I was lucky enough to go there last year for my first time, mate, and you'll get there one day. I've got no doubts. And when you do, I can't wait to hear just what your thoughts are on it, because it's you talk about it all in such a way like you've been there only from seeing photos. So, mate, I really look forward to hearing from you when you do get the chance to go to Broome. So, mate, that's great to hear that's your one. I like it. I like it, mate.
It looks like so much fun to play. It just looks like an absolute blast to play that course, I reckon. It just looks like heaps of fun. It's
incredible, and it is a bit of a mecca. People do travel there, do travel back. It's on everyone's lists. Bucket list places. It is a special, and of course, I was able to interview Superintendent Phil Hill, the very first keeper of the green segment on this one, and he's a lovely man, and he does an incredible job with the team down there. So, mate, I'm sure when you get the opportunity, go and give Phil a yell as well, and let him know that you're coming in, because he'll be able to, I'm sure, show you around as well, and it's a fantastic part of the world. So there you go, mate. That's 7 quick questions that probably weren't so quick. So thank you very much.
Sorry,
Not at all, not at all, Jason. Now, mate, this is the good part. That's the fun over. This is the good stuff. I want to talk to you about your greenkeeping career. I want to talk to you about how you got to Broome, obviously, and we'll talk about Broome as well when we get to that part of the story. I want to hear from you about WA, about what you've been up to in your career getting there. So, mate, tell us how did you get started in greenkeeping? Was it where you grew up? Where did you grow up? I suppose we can even get into that too, and tell us where you sort of started, and we'll go through your story.
Yeah, my story's a bit, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a bit schizophrenic. I've moved around a fair bit and changed my mind a fair bit, so I'll try my best to make this quick.
No, don't. You don't need to be rushed. It's all good. I mean, we're all interested in hearing it. This is why it's so enjoyable to hear what people have been up to get to their point in their careers.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Perth, and after finishing school, like I guess like when I finished school, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I loved the outdoors and bushwalking and things like that, and rock climbing, and I spent some time saving and working at an outdoor shop, and then selling Mountain Designs. Actually, I don't know if you know that, but
Mountain Designs, the brand.
Yeah.
It's funny because in the Blue Mountains where I grew up, that was the store. That was the shop. You had a Mountains Design store at the bottom of Katoomba Street. We used to go there all the time in backpacks, and they were all climbing things as well. But we were campers, and so you'd buy sleeping bags, and we'd always just go looking and see what was going on. So yes, I know Mountain Designs. Very good brand.
Oh, it was a wicked place to work, and I spent a few years there. And I knew, so I sort of had I went and did some study on the side as well. I studied Cert 3 in Hort.
Yep.
And then I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to go travelling. I had sort of grand delusions of being like into the wild type thing, from my time at Greenkeeping.
Wow. Full Bear Grylls.
I just wanted an adventure. I think I left when I was about 18, 19. I think I left. I had a round the world ticket, and I left with $800 and I spent a year and a half working and backpacking in New Zealand and America.
Wow.
I ended up breaking my ankle in the States. I was a skateboarding instructor. I was working as a skateboarding instructor there and with a kids camp, and I broke my ankle in the bowl on like the second day working there.
Oh no.
And then so I had to have surgery there, and it was like it was a massive, if you've gone through the medical system in the States, it's really expensive. Luckily, I think I actually still owe them money. They've given up trying to track me down.
Hang on, they're not. You're in Broome. They're not going to find you there.
But they've stopped sending me letters. I don't know if that is good. So
maybe we shouldn't talk about that bit anymore in case they do find you, mate.
It wasn't that much. My insurance paid most of it. But anyway, I'm not sure if I'll be arrested if I ever go bad. But so I left there. Luckily at the time my parents were travelling at a similar time. They were in Europe at the time in the UK. I went to the UK. They helped me out for a bit because I was in a moon boot, and I travelled around with them for a while.
That's tough.
And I was trying to sort of keep things going, and then because I had a British passport, and then get work there afterwards. But it became pretty clear I'd have to come back to WA for more surgery. So ended up coming home, had more surgery, wasn't sure. I wanted to go back travelling because I had the real travel bug. Sort of got a job in a bar, and then what changed everything was this girl walked in, who most beautiful girl in the world. She's now my wife. She walked in.
That's nice. What a good story.
That's it. And after that, she's a bit more of a homebody. She's sort of a bit more of a homebody. She was it. So I decided to stay. Got a job at a shire, and actually I was like through my horticultural certificate, and in that time I was the guy that was my first exposure to, I guess, turf, as turf is, because the guy who was doing the cricket wicket there resigned. And then the guys who came down and talked to me, I was sort of helping him out. And the guys, they said, oh, well, do you want to do the cricket wicket?
Yeah, right.
For the season? So I ended up doing the cricket wicket with not much idea what I was doing, but I loved it. And it was brilliant.
So that was your first real taste of sports turf. So let me just try and clear up a little bit of that as well, because you'd already done Hort. You mentioned you were studying on the side very early on there. Was that when you'd finished school before you started travelling?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you'd done that then, and then you travelled obviously and come back. And when you say you were working for a shire, is that like a council? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Is that what they call them in WA? You got different. Everyone's state's got different words for different things. So,
yeah, I think so. Hopefully, I didn't just get that off Lord of the Rings. I'm pretty sure we called it a shire.
If you start talking about hobbits and elves and then you talk about New Zealand where they filmed, I'll know that we've gone on a sidetrack.
No, yeah, I was working there after a while, and I actually was super into it. Like, I loved it. And the guys who were managing it at the time, I wanted to go on and do more training. I didn't want, I wanted to learn, and they said, well, you have to go to a golf course, like, type thing, and because we don't offer that sort of training, obviously. So I at the time, then I was sort of, I resigned there, and then I was sort of not sure what to do. So my now wife was in university at the time, and she was studying, and I was sort of enjoying talking to her about the uni life and studying and stuff. So I did a mature age entry exam and then got into uni.
Yep.
And then I studied environmental science.
Wow.
And sort of, and basically most of it, like, obviously, because I love plants, all of my lectures were focused towards plant science. So a lot of that sort of thing. Then I ended up, so I spent 3 years at uni and bounced around between Notre Dame and Murdoch, which are the unis here. Then a lot of my mates were graduating and sort of struggling to find jobs, and I was getting itchy feet at that time, the way I am, and I thought they were struggling to find jobs. But when they were leaving, they were ending up at places like, and anyone listening to this, I don't mean to, but like Water Corp and stuff, doing water sampling and ending up in labs, or they were going on to teaching and stuff. So I'm like, well, I love plants, I love science, but I want to work outdoors because I love the outdoors. I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I'm like, I had a bit of itchy feet. We decided to take some time off, and we went down to that. That's when we decided to go down to Margs and spend some time in Margs with our mate down there. I love surfing.
Now, hang on. Mate, I've got to stop. We've had this little bit of conversation off the podcast where you West Australians start talking in weird language when you go Margs. I've got to pull you up because no one knows what the hell Margs is. And it took me a little bit to cotton on that it's Margaret River. Margaret River. So Margaret River. So we've gone. So you're in Perth at this stage doing uni and stuff. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then you've decided to make the move down to, it's one of the biggest surfing hubs in Australia, one of the most popular ones. Everyone knows about Margaret River for a surfing location, very popular. Yep. It's that's down south of Perth by a good hour and a half, maybe more.
No, 3 hours.
Oh, I was close. Not.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah. 3
so
hours,
3 hours down south of Perth to a beautiful part of the world. And it's a wine region as well, but we know it's a surfy hub. So Margs, as it were, is where you've made the move to with your girlfriend at the time. Now, obviously, wife or wife then?
No, girlfriend at the time.
Okay, righto. Yep.
So we moved down. We went down there, like, not expecting to spend much time. I always thought that I would go finish my degree.
Yeah, sure.
But unfortunately, I just fell in love with surfing. Well, I loved surfing before, but fell in love with Margs, Margaret River. And
well, you could say Margs now. We're all across it now.
So I was sort of living the life there. I guess we were having a lot of fun, Like, I was working and I was doing a few different jobs. Like, I was sort of floating around a bit. I was doing like a lot of property maintenance jobs, so still in horticulture, like working on holiday resorts and things, like, really, and a lot of them were really interesting, and I was loving that. Sort of a lot of sort of landscaping type roles.
But you like the hort base. So the basic, horticulture, botany, plants. You've done a little bit of turf in the cricket wickets and that sort of stuff. So you've still really enjoyed being involved in horticulture of some type. That's sort of what you're always wanting to be involved with, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And because I think that background of, like, and I just loved, like, I love being outdoors. I love science. I love plant science, and I still loved all that. That's what I took away from uni. I still love all that
for sure.
But I guess I like seeing it in actual nature, like
out in the real world.
At data on a spreadsheet, like it's really good. Like, what I love about gardening and turf is that, you're using all this theory, but you're seeing it in practice, and it's so fulfilling. So I was doing board at the time, and just having a good time surfing and stuff. Then must have been like a year and a half after being in Margaret River, Because one thing I didn't say before is that I do have a bit of a golfing background. My family's obsessed with golf.
Oh, a bit of a golfing background, but your family's obsessed. Yep, got it.
Yeah, they are. And I had lessons as a kid and stuff.
So you're a golfer of sorts as well.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Not like I had a lot of lessons as a kid. My dad, I guess like, but what your parents do isn't always the coolest. And I was a really energetic kid, so I really love surfing and things. And I regret now that I didn't put more effort into my golf, but I sort of because I love it so much now. And I see all these guys who did it from a young age and their swings are just immaculate and my swing looks like I'm chopping wood.
Look, it's one of the, I think golf's one of those wonderful sports because you can bounce in and out in life with golf. Yeah. I think. And I think that's what's so good about it. I know my brother's a classic example. He and I both played golf quite a bit when we were kids. And then once he got out into the work life and moved away from home, he moved away from the golf course because we were next door. And then he started to play a lot less golf. And now he's getting right back. He's playing more golf and is probably as much as I ever played when I was working full-time on a golf course too. And he really loves it. And I think, that you say that you regret it, and obviously that's how you feel about it, not doing more when you were younger. But I think life is swings and roundabouts, and you get the time to pick golf back up, to jump back into it, bring it back into your life, and things change. And you and I have spoken about kids and all sorts of stuff off the podcast, and I think that's, it comes and goes. And I think the more I talk to lots of different people, I think that it's not such a bad thing. Whilst I know you, like I said, you feel that way about it from the outside. It's great that you're getting back into it, which is so good. That you've got an opportunity and you had that chance, obviously, to do so, which is really cool. I think that golf affords that.
Yeah, that's it. I guess it's just I've always had I'd love to get down to, single figures, low single figures. I'd love to do that.
Yep.
But at the moment with young kids, I'm like, when do I have the time to go out and hit up 500 balls on the range? And
for sure.
Tipping. But anyway, I still love it. I just love getting out there, even though I'm a bit of a hack at the moment. But yeah,
it's the enjoyment of it, mate. Keep getting out there.
Yeah. So where was I? So I was there for a year and a half. Around about that in Marks, and I was thinking, what can I do? Because I love surfing so much. What can I do to, what's my dream job, which I can do in Margs, which I really enjoy. And I was enjoying horticulture at the time, but I knew I loved my time working on turf.
Yep.
I didn't know, and at the time, so I started pestering the superintendent at the time, Mark Lewis, for a job, and at Marks, and I wouldn't leave him alone. I think I drove him crazy for a casual position. And he said to me soon after, and he said that to me not long ago. He's like, I never had anyone pester me so much for a job. Just call him all the time. It's just that's what I can be like. I can be a bit annoying. So they took me, and then they took me on as a casual. And then I was blown away.
So you got a gig. You got to start.
Yeah, I got to start. So I started as a casual, and I just was blown away. And I just thought, this is insane. And because I was working, there was three of us at the time. There was Mark Lewis and Will Norris were there. And Will was really into his golf, a really good golfer, and loved his golf, and a cool dude into surfing and stuff as well, and really good sportsman. And he sort of taught me more about golf. I started getting a passion for playing the game. I was practicing all the time. Was learning about greenkeeping off Mark, and just had the best time. I was really enjoying it. And I just thought, this is me. This is everything I loved at uni, and everything I've loved in the other work I've done coming together to have this job, which is just so hands-on and so scientific, so scientific and creative. I just loved it. I was just like, this is insane. And I especially with the machine, I just loved it. And so then I started pestering Mark.
I find it really interesting. You're the first person that I've spoken to, I think, that's described greenkeeping that way, with all these different sides of different, I suppose, subjects that come in specialised. So you've talked about the science from the uni side of things. You talked about being hands-on. You talked about the sports side of stuff, and do you know what I mean? You've really found this. That greenkeeping grabbed all of those things, and that's what greenkeeping is for you. That's how you saw it, and it really ticked your boxes, and something that, like, when you just said then before, you're just like, this is it. It's just awesome. It was exactly what I was looking for, and I was like, wow, that's I haven't really heard anyone say it like that before, and I find that really fascinating because you've got this technical background from uni study, and I don't know too many people that have done uni degrees. I'm not saying there aren't them out there, but I certainly don't know of too many that have done a uni degree first and then come into greenkeeping.
Well, I'll stop you there. I didn't finish. I've got a year left. So.
Well, you're into. You didn't drop out. You're still hanging, so you can still say that you're flapping around there. But you had that in there because that's got Hort in it, like you said, environmental science. I looked at the same degree when I left school and didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't go down that path. It was just I think that's a level of interest, like you said. There's similar interests in there.
Well, the units you do is soil science, meteorology. There you go. Microbiology. Plant diversity. It's all really at the crux of it. It's all the theory behind what we do. So it's a massive, like, it was, and that's it. I'd go back to it, and my story is convoluted, but I'll go back to everything I've done and said that it's helped me in some way. And I sometimes I regret not finishing my degree because I had not much left at all. Yep. And I would like to finish it one day, but when the kids grow up. But I don't regret it leaving because who knows where I would have gone after that. Maybe I wouldn't have found this.
That's right. It's timing, right?
Exactly.
That's when it struck you, and you took the move to get down to Margaret River. I mean, and then you got into greenkeeping. You pestered the daylights out of Mark, superintendent.
Yeah,
so I sorry I had to jump in and interrupt, but I was just really curious on the way you described what greenkeeping, the way you saw what greenkeeping was, and all of your story to this point, because it's always interesting that not everyone comes into it from golf or from sport, and when they don't, I'm intrigued as to how they got there. Was it an influence from someone else? Was it by pure chance that there was an opportunity for work, which I've heard from people as well, and all sorts of things. But like for you, it was you were looking for something. You were kind of around the fringes of greenkeeping, and then you were just like, there's a go. And then you got into it, and you're like, wow, my world's open. This is it. This is what I want.
Yeah.
It's 100%. Unreal.
And I've got a theory, right? Can I tell you my theory?
Mate, please share. You're not sharing to me, by the way. This is sharing to the world. Just saying.
No, don't tell me that, mate. I'll choke up.
Hey, you've been on radio. You're good.
I'm trying to pretend you're the only person I'm talking to right
That's
now.
right. So what's your theory?
So my theory is that I truly believe, from speaking to other greenkeepers and stuff, that there is certain disciplines or certain I don't know, like, what would you call it? Like, disciplines might not be the wrong word, but areas to greenkeeping. And one would be the creative side, like the art of it.
Interesting.
The other would be the science side.
Yep.
Another side would be the mechanical side, and that would include retic. So I'd say they would be the three main ones. Yeah. And then the sports side. And what I've found is you talk to greenkeepers and they have definite interest in, like, they obviously, all of us love all aspects, but there's one thing in particular we like out of those things which draw us to it.
Yep.
I'd say, like, I've met greenkeepers who really love the mechanical side. They love fine tuning the mowers down to a point where it's just giving you the best cut. You get greenkeepers who love the sporting side. They love, renovating things like giving it a groom, giving it a roll, seeing how you get out and part and what that feels like, or the receptiveness of the greens. And then you get people who like tweaking with fertilizers and being, that sort of side of things, and then seeing how it responds. You get people who like striping up fairways, and you can like all those things, but I definitely think, like, there's one thing in particular which stands out for you.
Yep.
And for me, I love tweaking fertilizers and I love that sort of stuff, but I do like everything out. But that's my theory. I reckon that should be a question on your show. I was thinking about that today. I reckon you should ask people that.
You know what? I might expand to Steve Super 8. maybe. But no. I've never heard anyone. This is most fascinating, Jason. This is most fascinating conversation. I've never heard anyone pinpoint it down to those interest points of science, sport, art. The mechanical side. I enjoyed. You're right. I enjoy. Now I'm thinking about my time as greenkeeping and the things that I enjoyed. Certainly the things that I learnt. I learnt the mechanical side of things. I was never really. I love cars, but not the mechanical side of cars. But I learnt so much from my mechanic that we had a casual guy, Wally, I say young Wall. Wally was a Swiss mechanic, and he was a bloody wizard, Wally the wizard. And I learnt so much from him in the mechanical side of machines and engines and cuts and everything and anything. I never thought that I would have. Well, I remember doing the engine bits and pieces and basic mechanical things at TAFE going, what the hell do I need this for? And then when you get into work, you realise that's all you're using is all machinery, and you need to understand it. But there's that. Then there's the architecture side, which I'll throw in because that's my favourite.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm a big love of.
Yeah, but is that sport?
And that's it's probably crosses over sport, crosses over creativity as well. The artistic side of things, because it's a little bit of science, a little bit of art. There's a little bit of lots of little things in there, because then you go to construction and engineering.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean that's really awesome, mate. I say this all the time. The conversations that are part of me doing this podcast and having everyone listen that they do, we're all learning from all these conversations. I'm learning right now talking to you, and this is why I say to everyone listening, and some people don't believe me or not, but I don't get any of this before the podcast. I know none of these parts of the story, so I'm learning this as it comes through. I don't know, when I ask questions, I don't know the answers. So we're all learning as hearing this at the same time, and that is the best way of describing the disciplines and the interest points in greenkeeping. And I think you've hit it on the head, mate. I love it. I love it.
If it's learning. I think it's just musings from an overactive mind on a greens night at 5:30 a.m.
Mate, we're always learning, hearing other people talk, and I think and we take our little bits away of the points of interest that we are interested in. So, mate, that's fantastic. So, mate,
anyway.
I've lost track of where we were. I know we're at Margs surfing. We're talking about surfing and greenkeeping.
Sorry, mate.
No, don't apologise. These are good rabbit holes.
So I was pestering him. I was like, Marg, I really love this. I want to do a mature age apprenticeship. I want to get qualified, in turf. So at the time, and it was going to be like, a hit financially, but I was like, I don't care. Like, I want to do it. I think I was 24. I think I was 25 or so, 24, 25 at the time.
Yep.
And I was sort of not ready. I didn't want to go back to Perth, and I just was loving being in Margs. And so it took a while. We were battering. Well, the committee wasn't sure at the time. Eventually, it came back. Yes, that sounds good. We'll take him on. And I was there, I think, about 2 years into it, and I was loving it heaps. Like, I even, as an apprentice, paid for my own ticket to go over work on the Australian Open.
Wow. Where was that at the time?
It was at the Australian.
So. Oh, is that the Australian Golf Club here in Sydney?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So I went over there and, spent 10 days over there prepping the course.
Wow.
Just loved it, And at the time I was just so into it, And I was just...
What was that like?
Golf on TV, practicing all the time. Well, since I think a lot of guys do it now from WA, and we've had this conversation, WA is a long way from the rest of Australia, and it's a good learning curve for guys to go over and volunteer. And that's how I found it, just to see, especially coming from a country golf course, which is with 3 guys working on it, to go see something like that is just, you're just like, oh my God, it's like these guys have the resources of NASA,
It's quite, and there's a lot of volunteer help as well in the prep. Like you said, you've paid your way to get over there. And you're in Broome. Were you in Broome when you did that? We're jumping around a little bit, but where were you?
I was in Margaret River. So I was only 2 years into the apprenticeship then, yeah.
So you're an apprentice, a couple of years in, knowing that you're really absolutely loving what you've chosen to do now in a career path, and you take the opportunity to go to Sydney in the Big Smoke and go to the Aussie for the biggest men's tournament we have in the country, and you paid your way. I'm going to ask you a weird question. Did you find it worth it? Because you paid it yourself, you paid the airfares, you obviously had to stay somewhere. It's not a cheap exercise. Was it worth it?
No, it was worth it, hands down. Like, one of the best experiences, and I put that on par with traveling. Like, for me, from a working perspective, it was really good. It was just bummer what happened next when I came back to Margs. But, yeah, it was really, really, it was an awesome experience, and I'll never go back. It just made it, like, it was just so professional, and it was just looking at it and you're like, this is the pinnacle of everything we've talked about before in terms of sport, obviously in terms of sport and watching those guys play. And then in terms of creativity and just how beautiful everyone made it. And then, how their preparations of surfaces, like the sciences they were using. And it was just everything. Course architecture. I mean, obviously, these greens hadn't been built by Jeff on a John Deere tractor pushing them up. It was everything. Like, you just thought, this is the pinnacle of this industry. And, and I, at the time, it didn't make me want to do that as such, in terms of reach that level. But I just was like blown away. It was a fantastic experience. And I just wanted to, it did motivate me though. Like, I even I spoke to, he wouldn't remember at all. I was just a young guy, probably just disregarded it, but I was messing around, and Mark knows this, so I don't feel bad, but I was messing around and doing a transfer to go over and work at Royal Melbourne at the time.
Okay.
And what's his name?
Richard,
yep.
Richard Forsyth.
Because I thought, maybe I'd, it would be a good experience. I've gone both ends of the spectrum then in terms of, like, I love country courses, but they're different, it's just different. So I was in the way you work. So I was right into it. I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was just loving what I was doing. Went back to Margs after the Aussie, and I was hedging a hedge one day, and my back gave way. Like I slipped a disc. It's actually an old injury. So sort of old injury. It's like, it's prolonged. I think it's probably due to my ankle and the way I walk. Like, a little bit, like, I walk fine, by the way, but like, the hips are out of place and stuff. But like, it's just, I guess it was just strain and landscaping for those years, and just wear and tear on your body, and I played a bit of rugby, and so it slipped. I was in a bit of pain. The golf course was super supportive. They were like, well, we'll just put you on light duties, no stress, you can stay. But I felt, when you're on a small team, I felt really bad, like just mowing fairways or whatever, and it was hurting at the time anyway. So I was like, well, I don't want to do this, like, and put the strain on the team and just be that guy.
Yep.
So, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was at the point where I could go away for a while and then think about so I had to leave. I made that decision. So I left the industry and thought about going back to uni at the time. Was sort of mucking around rehabbing my back in Margs, and my wife was in a good job at the time, so we weren't sure. Anyway, I did study at TAFE, and I did a Cert 2 in environmental conservation or conservation land management. So I didn't what time wasn't like. And then a friend of mine who I surfed with, as my back was getting better, I was starting to do small wave surfing again and stuff. He was telling me he worked as a and that the golf club had already replaced me. He was working in disability support. So he said, you'd make a great support worker working with disability. So, and this is the thing. This is when I said, like, my figures, I've done a fair bit of stuff, but I think it's all really worthwhile. So I went away and did support work for 2 years as a support worker. So working with people with autism, working with mental health clients.
Wow.
Working with things like that. And then actually my wife and I was loving it, doing it full time.
Yep.
My wife got pregnant, and I thought, far out, I got to earn more money. Applied for the position of a manager there, and then got that. So then I spent 2 years managing like 35 clients of all different disabilities, and had like 50 staff or something.
Wow. So this is, you're so far out of greenkeeping now. You're gone. Yeah. Effectively, you're gone. from the industry.
Yeah, I thought I was gone. Yeah, 100%. And I was devastated about it. And my TAFE lecturer knew I was devastated, Jeff Austin, and I was talking to him, when I left and stuff. When I left, I thought I don't feel bad about saying it, but I was struggling with a bit of depression when I left because I was just a bit gutted.
Sure.
So anyway, I got into that, and anyway, I found a new love. Like I loved helping people and supporting people, but the problem is, I think I don't know if you can care too much, but I got pretty invested. And when that first time my wife got pregnant, actually ended up, when I took the manager position, ended up being a miscarriage. But it made me realise that
that's tough,
I
man.
had that's it. If people go through it, and it was terrible at the time, but that's life, right? But I realised far out, I want to have a family. Like I need to earn more money, so I said, "Oh, I'm going to go for that." And that was after I had the manager's position. I did it for 2 years. Then my son. But towards the end of those 2 years, I started getting really invested, and you got to realise that this system is really quite overstretched. Anyone with children with disability or mental health or things like that, and I was working with, kids who are quadriplegic, people with mental health issues. Like it took a big load on me.
Sure.
In the end, so I was, I sort of found it pretty hard at the time, and then my now son. My wife got pregnant again. I thought, well, I don't know. I was burning out with it. I just wasn't sure I was going to stay in it. But then I went out with Mark, and we went to a John Butler concert. And Mark said that his 2IC was leaving.
Okay.
And whether I wanted to come back in the 2IC role,
Wow.
So I went back.
Full left field, right?
Yeah, and I was like, far out, yeah, because my back was rehabilitated. Like I have very little back problems now, and I do go to the gym a fair bit to try and keep strong.
It's about looking after it. Once you know it's there, isn't it? It's about looking after yourself then and maintaining it.
Exactly. I don't feel it too much anymore. So I went back to Margs. I had for units left to study at TAFE. So I ended up paying for the units myself because I was no longer apprentice. I was 2IC. And then I was there for, I don't know, like year and a half or so. And in my last, one of my last blocks of study up in Perth, Broome Golf Club had got in touch with the lecturer and someone else who's heavily involved in the industry, John Forrest, said, is there anyone who you would recommend, for the position up in Broome? We've just lost our greenkeeper type thing. And then they sort of talked to the class about it, and I talked to Jeff, and Jeff was like, yeah, 100%, mate, you should do it.
Wow.
They put my name forward, and I went home and spoke to my wife, and we'd just come out of a really wet winter in Margs.
Yep.
Margs get wet and cold, eh?
Yep.
So we were like, oh, there's a position up in Broome, and like it's just been, when you're getting up in 3 degrees and getting hailed on, it's like it's far out. And I was like, and Vic's like, yeah, do it. And we were ready for an adventure because we'd been in Margaret River for, 10 years or so at the time. We did it. And
so can I ask you what year, how long ago was that to today? How long ago from when you took that leap to go up to Broome?
So 2 years now.
So just before COVID?
No, COVID was here. It was here. Not in WA though.
No, so it didn't make it over there yet.
No, we had the wall.
had the McGowan wall.
We had the COVID-proof fence.
In some part, that's just called distance in general.
What did ScoMo call us? Didn't he call us? Oh, it's like the Grugs or something. It's like this cavemen who live in their cave and don't want to come out.
I didn't hear that one. I didn't hear that one.
It outraged all West Australians, but we were just hanging out like cavemen, not getting sick.
All I know was that everyone kept calling it the McGowan Wall because no one could go over there and no one could come out. Each to their own.
COVID wasn't here in terms of WA, no.
Okay, but it was at that time of COVID, so early 2020-ish, somewhere around there. So, talk about an adventure, mate. You've I know you've been around the world and travelled a lot, but in as far as Australia goes, you really only know the southwest of WA, and you know it probably pretty well. And you enjoyed that part of the world at Margaret River. It really is a beautiful part of the country. If anyone's ever considering going to WA, the southwest is quite magnificent. It really is beautiful. But you've then decided that you're going to go on an adventure. It must have been, because Broome is not local. You are the best part of what? 1,000 kilometres north of Perth?
I'm pretty sure it's more than that.
It probably is.
I don't even know. It's like I'll Google search. I'll get back.
You know what? I'm going to do it now while we're talking. I'm going to find out.
I think it's like closer to. I don't know how far. I don't want to say just in case I'm making sound stupid.
It's but it's not local. So you talked about how cold it was down at Margaret River in winter. You talked about 3 degrees, hail, because the southwest that's your wet part of the year is winter, isn't it? You get the cold front sweeping up from the Southern Ocean, and you get the cold winds, the cold. There you go. It's by car. It is 22 hours drive.
Yeah.
And it's 2,000 kilometres.
Yeah. It's a fair track. And, being a superintendent, I'm sure we'll get to that, but trying to get stuff in, that's the struggle.
It is quite a remote. This is what I'm just trying to let people know. And if anyone's unsure, there is not really much connecting. No. It's dusty. There's a lot of deserts between Perth and Broome. There's a lot of empty, vacant land. There's not really a lot of inhabitants in that region, if that's the right way of saying it. You may well be closer to Darwin than Perth, but you are really, really remote. And we're going to talk about that in time as to what that equals in trying to maintain a golf course. But you talked about an adventure. That's a proper adventure, mate. You're out.
It was a big, we put our house up for sale in Margaret River, and I was like, oh my God, just as we made that decision, I was like, what? Like, what are we doing?
Is this the right thing?
Yeah, just as you've just had your first kid, So
wow, what a decision. That's as big a decision that anyone can make. And how old was your son?
one.
So 1 year old,
one.
One year old, 1 year old. You're in greenkeeping. You've gone back to greenkeeping.
Yeah.
And now you're taking on the reins as was that the superintendent's role?
Yes.
So you've gone for straight up to top dog at Broome.
Yeah, and I think the motivation there was simply because I felt like I'd lost 4 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, at the time I would have been 33, 32. So I was like, I've lost 4 years here. I love the trade. So at the end of the day, I wasn't like, thinking about climbing the ladder or anything like that.
Sure.
But I just was like, well, I've already been in Margs for a while and, worked with Mark for, collectively probably 4 or 5 years. So I was like, well, I need to take it. I probably need to take a next step, So that was my next step, and I came up here, and it was brilliant. I'm glad I did, but it was pretty daunting at the time. We sold our house, and it was like no turning back. Said goodbye to our really, really good mates and our family down there, and it was pretty scary at the time with a young boy.
That's quite an incredible story, mate. I've got to tell you that. Just hearing your path of greenkeeping is far from what I would have said is any of the other conversations I've had here. I struggle using the word normal because normal conjures up certain things. It means it's often a straight path, and I don't know that anyone I've spoken to really has had a straight path in greenkeeping in life. So that's why I don't like to use that term. It's your story, it's your path, and I think it's a very unique one. And with that step away in the middle that was forced upon you in a sense because of your back and your health, and you went out. But when you went away from greenkeeping into that other industry, working with people with disabilities and helping them, you were in that industry obviously, but you would have learnt how. You said you had 50 staff. You were learning how to run and manage people, manage systems, look after different parts of the business as well. I mean, they're all things that you eventually end up doing as a superintendent in a sense. Anyway, so you're still learning. this is what I keep saying. It might not have been greenkeeping or hort specific, but no doubt you would have picked up managerial skills and dealing with people and dealing with your bosses in a sense. You do that now.
Totally. I don't regret anything I've done actually. And that was an amazing actually learning experience. Because talk about pressure and it was a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility and you're running budgets like funding for clients and stuff like that. So it taught me how to be organised. It taught me how to handle pressure and manage loads. So it was a good experience. Of course I would have probably preferred to have stayed, and not hurt my back. But you can't look back. You've just got to go. Okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm going to do. So so it was good. And
that's unreal, mate. What was it like? And I don't. It's 2,000 kilometres to Broome. Can I ask you? Did you fly or did you drive?
I drove.
Whoa.
People do it here, mate. Honestly, you talk to people, they do it in 2 days, or even some people don't even stop. It's crazy.
Well, and but us, I say us Aussies loosely. Yeah. I grew up in the Broome, and it's relative, right? I'm going to just jump in with this little story because it's all relative to what people think, right? I'm on the beaches, the northern beaches of Sydney. It's they call it the Insular Peninsula sometimes, right? Yeah. And people just love the beaches. They grow up here, they live here, families are here, they stay here, they don't like leaving here. Okay, I grew up in the Blue Mountains, right? Now, from the Blue Mountains, it was removed enough from Sydney Metro that when I was growing up, the nearest shopping centre, in inverted commas, was 45 minutes away by car, 1 hour by train. Okay? Now, most people, when I say that, look at me like I've got two heads. Because I'd be like,
great.
So if I wanted to go to a shopping centre, if we wanted to go to a place that had all the department stores and specialty shops and whatevers, like a Westfield, I had to jump in a car. I had to plan the day, right? Jump in the car, drive for 45 minutes down the hill, get to Penrith, and you go to Penrith Plaza, okay? And if we wanted to do it by train before I got my licence, it was an hour on the train. Yeah. Just to go shopping. Right? Just to go shopping. That was the Blue Mountains. I come to the Northern Beaches, and I say to people, I'm working, I'm going for a drive over to that area, and it's an hour away for a drive.
And you're lucky where you live, though.
And that's the thing. So Australians generally, if you're outside the metro areas, and there's a lot of people that don't live in metro, are used to driving distance. I was used to driving from the Blue Mountains. I was used to driving west. We used to travel for pennants when I was playing golf. We'd drive for an hour and a half. Yeah. To go to the next golf club to play golf in pennants and compete. And it wasn't that big a deal. And over there, obviously in WA, it's a southwest corner that's where the majority of the population is. But if you went further afield, if you've got other reasons to drive around, it's not an hour, it's 6. No.
So just for perspective, so from Broome, our nearest town is Derby. Derby's tiny. That's probably, I think, geez, you're testing me, because I've been to Derby to play golf. Okay. And because they've got a golf course there, it's a 12-hole grass greens, but it's just it's great. They have the Derby Open. We sort of have a relationship, our golf club and theirs. So go up there, have a hit.
Cool.
That's I think that's 2 or 3 hours away. That's the nearest, but that's a tiny population. And then the real closest town is Port Hedland, and people say that like it's down the road. It's 6 hours away,
Shit, 6 hours?
There is nothing between there. And, then it's, Carafa and, it's massive, and there is nothing, like you said before, you are so isolated. People talk, it's a bit of a Broome bubble, you come here and...
Sure.
And it's what I like about it. Everybody knows everybody. There's no secrets in Broome.
There's a tagline there. Is that the city tagline? Broome. There's no secrets in Broome.
The other one's Broome time. It'll get here when it gets here, and it will get done when it gets done. That seems to be around here.
I'm sure there's plenty of WA sayings about. There is all over the place with those sorts of areas. But I'm just trying to give everyone a sense of isolation without being, I suppose, without being rude about it. It really is. difficult for certain things to happen in a hurry because of isolation. You can't go and order something like we've had here. I was 100 kilometres out of Sydney as a superintendent in the Blue Mountains, and I could have the luxury, if I wanted to order something, I knew that it would come up by freight the next day, right?
Or you could drive there.
You could drive. Yeah, I could drive an hour down the hill. Correct.
Yeah, that's like really down the road.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a cattle station somewhere is an hour down the road from Broome.
No, that happens in Perth, yeah. And I think even people talk about the southwest, that you feel distance in the southwest, but Broome's just a whole nother kettle of fish. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, we and I'm sure, I don't know if we'll touch on this stuff, but obviously with a small club, we've got a lot of our machinery is some of it's a bit older. So we've got a spray unit here. Well, you should hear what's seen in the old spray unit like before.
Yeah, right.
It was insane. Like, we had one of the Bailey's reps came up and took pictures of it because he thought it was so funny. And
he's like, "Is that a museum piece you have over there?"
Well, it had a crack in the top of the tank, and it was on it was a boom on the back of a tractor with that, but the boom didn't work anymore.
Yeah,
so
right.
They were just hosing it on with a hose.
Yep.
And then there was a crack in the top of the tank. So how it was fixed was it was a wetting agent tank, one of the plastic tanks.
Yeah.
They cut out like Des, who's a legend, mate. Like he's like the offsider hero. He's a mechanic by trade.
Yep.
Diesel mechanic by trade. He cut out the wetting agent tank, just tacked it on the side, and then like siliconed the edges, and then so it would hold pressure and.
So it would hold pressure. So, and you know what? This is a little bit, and I don't know if my Wally mechanic was as good, but I find mechanics that are worth their weight in gold, they are wizards. Like, they really keep you going in smaller clubs, and they can do things that you just look at them and just go, really? And they'll get you out of trouble. They will mean that you can keep working and doing your jobs. They are literally worth their weight in gold. It's quite amazing.
No, I love this guy, Des. He's just amazing. We get along really well. We've got a really good team. But Des is just amazing. He's 75 years old, retired sort of diesel mechanic, works here full-time now. But just, he can fix anything, It's incredible. Like, I often joke, like, if a machine's broken down, like, and sees Des coming, it just sort of, I was going to swear then, but I won't swear. It just sort of packs it, stacks, and then, like, just starts working because he knows Des is going to pull it apart.
It's shit scared. It doesn't want Des. You're not doing open heart surgery on me, Des. I'll get going before that happens.
Yeah. So anyway, with the thing of distance, we have this new spray unit. Me and Des sort of put it together. It's an old truckster we got off Hartfield Country Club down in Perth. Got the truckster sent up. We got the spray tank donated from the Shire. We bought all the boom and everything and fitted all the valves in ourselves. Anyway, it's an older model. It's like it's a bit of a Frankenstein, but it works great.
Is that the three-wheeler?
No, it's a four-wheeler. It's the HD.
Okay. No, we had a three-wheeler.
Heavy-duty one.
We had a three-wheeler at Wentworth Falls when I was the truckster. It was a little three-wheel unit with a spray tank. So anyway, that's why I asked.
No, I love this thing, mate. It's so great. And then so it cost us like $12,000 to put together entirely, and I just love it. Anyway, we snapped about a month and a half ago. We snapped the clutch cable, so it couldn't drive anymore.
Yep.
And then rang up Jacobson, and just in Australia, like, there wasn't any clutch cables because of COVID or whatever, and it's older model, no worries.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, like, and this is what the difference of being up here. Like, we're like, okay, we're going to have to manufacture a cable. No cable manufacturing places up here. So then we call Perth. We had to go through, give them all the designs of the cable. It takes a week and a half to get up here.
Yep.
Gets up here, it's the wrong cable.
Oh.
So then we're like, and we can't spray, and at the moment, like, this time of year, disease is just, lithium's going crazy,
Yep.
So then I'm like, oh no, like, we'll get it back down. I'm calling, like, around, like, the Shire to see if they've got a unit we can borrow, just to get some fungicide out, and they had nothing, there's nothing in town. So I'm like, thought about just knapsacking it at that point, or doing something, and trying to get my rates right. But then sent away with the cable, got a cable up. So it was 4 weeks to just get something simple
4
like
weeks.
a cable made up.
Wow.
In the height of disease, at the moment we're getting a lot of disease. So
incredible.
It does your head. But that's the difference of being isolated, and that's just one example. That happen all the time, stuff like that.
I've got no doubts, mate. It's that the distance is real and it has effects, and you've got to do your best to be prepared and all that sort of stuff. But like you said, if a clutch cable snaps, you're not going to carry a clutch. Clearly, Jacobson don't carry one in the country, so why would you have one at Broome? Right, and that's the level. Okay, so when people go, oh, look, just call the manufacturer. It might take a week to get it up there. They don't carry it in Australia. Yeah. So we have a real problem. Not only is Broome distanced and isolated from Perth, Australia's isolated from the world. So there's knock-ons everywhere.
100%. So
yeah, mate,
it's
unreal.
challenging. It's challenging anyway. Yeah.
Unreal. Well, okay, we've worked our way. We've got you to superintendent role at Broome, mate. You've made it there. What a big move for the family and everything. And we've digressed a little bit, which is always a bit of fun. But mate, let's start to talk about Broome, because that's one of the reasons I also wanted to get you on the podcast. Was I said to you early on when we first flagged it with you, I said, what the hell does it take to look after a golf course it's grass, you got grass greens, at a place like Broome, where it's 1 minute it's stifling hot and dry and there's dust everywhere, the next minute is a monsoon and it's just raining. I mean, talk about extremes. This is a really unique part of Australia where I struggle to get my head around how you're meant to maintain a golf course up there. So, mate, tell us a little bit about what the golf course is, what you have there in terms of turf surfaces and the sorts of weather conditions that you got to deal with.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, well, what it takes is a good sense of humour. That helps a lot.
I think you've got that in spades.
If you don't laugh, you cry. Eh? So I think it's amazing up here, mate. Like, it is. It's an incredible part of the country, and it really does feel like real Australia. We're on the gateway to the Kimberley, and it is extremes, like super extreme. So on the course, I'll start with the grasses, I guess. So
Sure.
On the course, we have wintergreen cooch,
okay,
and then common cooch on the fairways and tees, and that sort of started coming into the greens, but we're trying to sort of keep that at bay, but it's obviously difficult. Yep. So wintergreen on the greens, and
so cooch greens. That's interesting. I didn't know what you'd have up there. I suppose you have to have cooch, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't think you have much of an option.
Yep.
We're looking at one of our biggest problems here is really bad cooch mite,
okay,
and fungal disease. But cooch mite, because of our humidity is so high, and I guess maybe I should get into the weather, what the weather's like, but cooch mite's a massive problem. We spend a lot of money on cooch mite.
Wow.
Control. That's a struggle. Cooch mite, we've got to keep at bay, and the fungal diseases. So pest and disease is a big issue because you've got, the temperatures are up there. You've got very high humidity in wet season, and especially when they all seem to rear their head when you have the massive rain events.
Sure.
Well, especially the disease does. So,
what's a massive rain event, mate? Tell us what does that mean for that part of the world? Because in winter, is it just dry? Like, it really? Because you look at Broome on a map. Like, if anyone pulls up a satellite image of Western Australia up in the northwest in Broome, it's red. Everything's dirt, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I'm picturing hot and dry, but then equally you get cyclones in summertime. You talk about the wet season, and I'm trying to contrast that with what I think of the top end in the Northern Territory and far north Queensland, where there's rainforest and all that, but you don't have that.
Nah,
so
totally.
How does humidity and all that work? But then you've got this sort of barrenish type landscape. It just seems so opposites and odds.
Yeah, I guess for us, like, our humidity can get up to, in wet season, probably we just don't get the rainfall, to be honest.
Okay.
I think that's probably it. But humidity can get up to around 75, 80% in wet season. And then we're getting sort of, this time of year is what we call the build-up. So high temperatures, but still relatively dry. Like, I think it's probably around 35% humidity at the moment.
Okay.
And about 38, 39 degrees today.
What?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
What, nearly 40?
Yeah. This last week's this is called the build-up. So around...
Holy
just
shit.
before the rains come, if you remember that old McCain's ad.
Marge, the rains are here. Yeah. I love that ad. That's funny.
Yeah, so they call it the build-up. So it gets real, real hot. And it's sort of like you're getting evaporation rates, sort of averaging around sort of 9, 10 millimeters per day, So
bloody hell.
Huge amount of evaporation and huge amount of water needed, obviously irrigation. And then you won't get rain. Normally January, February's the time where you'll get rain.
Okay.
So, and it all comes at once. So,
of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Yeah. So it
wow.
was 500. So yearly, I looked this up for you, Steve.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. I love this shit. Bring it on.
I did my homework. So the normal average rainfall for Broome is around 512 millimetres per year.
Okay, yep.
So not very much. But we got it last year, we got 564 millimetres in 2 days. So
so when you get it, by geez, you get it.
Get it, yeah, 100%.
So
that's a big rain event.
So you talked about the wet season in early in the year, actually January, February type thing. So you're getting what is a relatively low amount of rainfall over a 12-month period, but it's not over 12 months you get it. You really get it in this very small window of, a couple of months usually.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a proper downpour, and then you don't get anything for another 10 months.
Yeah.
Jesus. And by the way, it's 40 degrees in September. just saying, hey, Jason, deal with that.
Yeah. And you know how it is, so a big thing for me, coming here, in turf, you can't treat one golf course on one side of a city or one side of an area to another golf course on the other side of the city. Your soils will be different, your temperatures will be different, everything, your irrigation, whatever, your irrigation quality will be different. Coming this far, it's the soils, it was a massive learning curve. I was seeing diseases obviously I never seen before.
Yeah.
Working with grasses, which I hadn't worked with before because, Mark's is kike and bent.
Okay, cool season greens, because we talked about being 3 degrees and hail and cold and windy in wintertime. And then you get up to Broome, not only is it 40 degrees in winter, but it's cooch. It's cooch. So common cooch, we go back to common cooch on most of your shortcut turf surfaces. And then when you get it, so fairways and tees and surrounds. And then your greens are, what was it, winter green?
Winter green, yeah. And this is the thing, right? And I was touching on it before, because of these disease impacts we get. I really want to trial some different greens, some different turf grasses here, and see what it does cope with up here.
Wow.
Because obviously you can't take... I had to learn on my feet. I talked to a lot of people, but, a lot of, consult a lot of books, did a lot of research when I come across stuff, but a lot of it's been sort of, it's just been a lot of... And that's where I think... I like, doing trials, stuff like that. So
sure.
So what I want to see up here in the next thing is and I know that I think listening to your other shows, that's probably something which will be coming up. But we would like to trial some different turf grasses for the greens and see how they go, how they respond to the humidity, how they respond to the lack of water, stuff I'd love to see paspalum.
There's an interesting choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Apparently a really good green. I played on it in Rottnest. It's a really good green surface.
Okay. That's Rottnest Island off Perth?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's you had someone on from Contour Golf the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben Davey. He did the design work for the 9-hole course there at Rottnest.
Yeah, he would. I listened to that show, yeah.
Lovely guy.
He was that was that's a good course, eh? I
Is
like
it?
that.
There you go.
Course. Yeah, it's good fun. Good green surfaces like paspalum, and if it doesn't have something like cooch pine which attacks it, then that's going to be big saving to our club. And the other big thing we have here, which causes issues, is ERI. The ERI.
Yep.
Cooch Cooch decline. Have you come
Cooch,
across?
yeah. Yep, ERI.
Decline, yeah. And that's that like gaminosis or whatever that like related to tapeworm patch, and that's been hard. Like, and it loves going underwater. So when it pops up, it just when that water gets saturation, it really is hard to control. So something that would stand up to that a bit better would be good. That would save us money. So yeah, I'd love to trial some different sort of green grasses, do some plots next to the shed.
That's really interesting. That it can be something. Obviously, you know what you're dealing with now. So the fact that there are other choices, other grass varieties to trial to see what would work. You're literally eliminating 100% chance of a cooch mite hitting paspalum. So, that what does that equal? So you do those trials, you get the opportunity, hopefully from the club, to look into that, and that's all the future of Broome Golf Club and what you can provide the locals. I'm curious, mate, a little bit, and it's probably a sidetrack off the course features, and we'll still continue to talk about it. But in terms of Broome, how big a city is Broome? How many people are we talking?
I don't know. I haven't counted them. I'm not sure.
You haven't counted them? Come. I know there's a lot of time to make the most of in Broome.
It's quite small, mate.
Okay, so it's not small. And how busy is your golf course? Are you pretty full on? What are your Saturday fields? How busy is it?
So we got 300 members.
Okay.
It's a big tourist town, mate.
It is.
Like a lot of people, so a lot of it is tourism. So around sort of like we might average across around 225 rounds a week, something like that.
Yep.
And that's spread out in the peak season. It gets very busy.
It is a popular tourist destination because there's a lot of places that people love to visit. As much as there's a lot of nothing up there, there are quite a few things that certainly off the coast as well. There's lots of things up in the northwest that people like to travel and see, and there's reefs up there and unique things to do and see and fishing and all sorts of stuff. It's a magnificent country. It really is. It is.
Awesome camping, fishing, all of that. Yeah, so really good. So yeah, quite a small town, big, but it like triples or quadruples in size in dry season. So
wow, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 18-hole golf course.
Yeah.
And grass, we've talked about the turf surfaces. How many staff do you have maintaining overall? What have you got in your team?
So when I first came, there was me, Des, who I talked about.
Yep.
He was at the time he was working, getting paid for about 50% of the work he did.
Yep.
And then there was Josh, who was a casual, and he was doing about 25 hours a week, 20 hours a week.
Okay.
Now Josh was an ex-tiler, and he was enjoying it here. And I was sort of trying to, was talking to him. I said, well, mate, do an apprenticeship, and I got him, and now he's done an apprenticeship.
Fantastic.
So he flies down to Perth. Great guy, really, and come a long way. He's awesome to have around. But he flies down to Perth, so obviously four times a year, 2-week blocks. And does TAFE.
Hang on. What do you mean, flies down to Perth? Flies to Perth for TAFE?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Nah, he has to.
Was that where the nearest TAFE is? 2,000 kilometres away? Are you kidding me?
Nah, there's a TAFE here, but they don't.
But they don't do greenkeeping?
Nah, of course not.
So, holy sh... I cannot believe... I had no... we're talking about remote... The near...
Yeah.
We have problems in Sydney, right? Because a couple of TAFEs have dropped off from providing greenkeeping. It's now just Ryde is the only one left at the moment because I used to send my guys to Richmond. And that meant going from a 45-minute drive from the Blue Mountains to TAFE at Richmond to an hour and a half drive-ish, depending on traffic, from the Blue Mountains to Ryde.
Yeah.
You're going... So, I want you to sign up as an apprentice. We need a level of commitment because the nearest TAFE is 2,000 kilometres away. I'm sorry.
At least we're not making him drive.
I'm sorry for laughing, mate, but 2,000 kilometres away to do your study.
Yeah, he really loves greenkeeping.
That's a commitment and a half. That's incredible. So how often, sorry, I glossed over as soon as you said he goes to Perth. How often does he do that?
So he does it 4 times a year for 2-week blocks.
Oh my
And
God!
listen, like the state government helps out, like because they.
But that's great.
That's it. So all his flights are paid for.
Okay, that's great. That's good.
And he gets a living allowance down there. So,
okay, so that means that it's workable.
Yeah, they do it to make sure that everyone has the same opportunities, no matter where you live. Yeah,
that's so good because WA it's the biggest state in Australia. It's massive. You've heard the distances, guys. So these are the things that make a difference with support. So an opportunity to be a greenkeeper living in Perth, and you can gain experience and be trained up and by people like yourself to be an apprentice. You get that opportunity in Broome, and I think that's huge, man. That's unreal. What great commitment. It shows that people enjoy it as well. And it's great that it's on offer. And you can be trained up, not just be someone that works on a golf course. The government is helping to gain the skills, the professional skills and knowledge, albeit 2,000 kilometres away. But he'll have those skills for life. And then he can go wherever he wants in time if he chooses.
100%.
Which is fantastic.
This is what I talked about with the club, right? Because, obviously it's hard, there's not a ton of greenkeepers kicking around Broome. You know what I mean? Like there's me and one other guy who used to own a turf farm here.
Yep.
We're the two in Broome.
The two in Broome.
Down Broome Hills. Yeah. And he's been great actually to bounce stuff off.
That's awesome.
I should say that. Yeah, he ran a turf farm here for years, so he's brilliant to talk to. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot, and it is a big thing. Like we need to start producing our own qualified guys who have family and connections to Broome, rather than continuously trying to bring guys in, who aren't used to, because it is a harsh environment. You are a long way away from family. It is difficult to be here long term. And I sort of pushed the fact that, but in this golf course's club's best interests, even if they go away for a while, they should go away for a while. They should. I strongly believe that they should, and I hope he goes. I've been talking to him. I want him to go and see if we can, what we can do. See if we can send him to go do some competitions like I did at the Open. Like we need to see other things.
Yep.
But we need to get our own guys trained up here, and so you always have that. Even if they go away, the position comes up, they can come back. Their family, their support network, and everything in here. They've done it. They've learned. They can take this club, keep moving this club forward,
Mate, that's so true. And it's a big deal for local people. And there's something to be said for understanding the local environment and the local climate, I believe. And I'm from the Blue Mountains, and I think that when you have grown up and you've experienced for a long period of time, for a number of years, a climate and a local environment, with maintaining a golf course and an outside space, that's invaluable, and it's really hard. And I'm not saying that you have to have that, but it is quite helpful sometimes in trying to maintain an outdoor space. And for local isolated communities to have work and be experienced and trained up and be professional in that local community, like you said, it breeds other people in the area. It brings things along. Then there's career opportunities as the place grows and the club gets bigger, and tourism. People will travel to that part of the country into Broome for other things, but they can also play golf there as well while they're there. And I think that's a good thing to be able to have and to tell people about. So with that is the opportunities for the club to grow in time as the city grows and gets bigger, as population increases, and then you've got another employment opportunity for potentially younger people as well in the town. And we've heard that from other people in other parts of the country that are superintendents that are looking for employment opportunities to get more staff on board. Those things come up, and I think that's fantastic for the area. And for Broome, like you said, that's brilliant. I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
Mate, I want to hear a bit more about the golf. I know we keep getting sidetracked away from it, but tell us a little bit more about the course. So we talked about 18 holes. Is it on what type of landscape? You touched on the soils. I don't know. Is it heavy? Is it sandy? Have you got creeks that only run for 2 months a year when it's pissing down rain, and other times they're dry creek beds? Are there high points? Is it flat? What is the course features like for anyone who's going to, we might travel up there or travelling through? I know I've had listeners, and I'll talk about them. I'll talk about Lock and Leash from Finding Fairways Australia that I've had on the podcast before, that travelled through that area. I think they even played golf there, if I'm not mistaken. So what sort of parts of the golf course, what are the features?
So it's built on so what we have here, what the sand is called what I saw, it's called pindan, but it's basically it is quite heavy. It's a crazy media to work with, because it can go, when it's dry, it goes rock hard.
Okay.
And it's because it's got quite high clay and silt content.
Yep.
And it goes rock hard, and when it's wet, it just turns into porridge. And so it's quite a difficult soil to work with. You don't get the best drainage out of it, and it's quite prone to hard pan, in your greens and stuff.
Yep.
That's basically the soil, but we've done things to sort of start remedying that.
Yep.
The actual, what that creates for the course is quite firm feeling greens. Generally, most of the times, unless we solid time them once a month to try and keep them receptive.
Wow.
But they do go, and then we core twice a year. But they which is standard. But we have to solid time once a month. If we don't, then they can get quite firm, and it's hard to hold chips.
Okay.
So all the greens are elevated. So for when it rains,
that for drainage purposes and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're like little islands.
Okay.
It's generally quite flat, apart from where the clubhouse is built and the first tee.
Okay.
The top left-hand side, top western side, is sort of gently undulating up there. It's built in a sort of drainage area, I guess, low-lying, surrounded by sand dunes, quite long. It's generally a lot of long holes, a lot tree lined, no bunkers because of the rain issues and obviously staffing thing.
Yep.
But it's a very challenging course. A lot of people really enjoy it. It's a good course, I think. Yeah, it's got its own definite feel, and so that's basically how it sits, and it's surrounded by a sort of native bush, got boabs, stuff like that.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, full of wildlife too. Heaps of wildlife, like wallabies, things which are called bung arrows, or they're known locally as barneys. They're huge lizards. They're like a metre long.
Well, like goannas or monitors or something.
Yeah, like big. Yeah, that's right.
Big goeies.
Frill net lizards, pythons, frogs.
Wow, that's cool. So it's
heaps of birds of prey.
Wow, really? So it's quite a sanctuary for wildlife. I love to say sanctuary for wildlife because a lot of people don't realise how I suppose how much of a living space a golf course is.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
You've got quite a lot of wildlife and boabs. Who doesn't love a boab tree? Jesus, how good are they? And if anyone's not sure, it's the trees that have this real big bulge in the trunk. It looks like a bottle. With a bulge in the middle, and it's sort of a dodgy little top of foliage. There's really some of them are these enormous shades, and they're naturalish to that area, aren't they? Up the northwest.
Yes, they are. Well, most of them actually grow. There's a lot of boabs in Broome, but most of them naturally occur more north from here.
Right. Okay.
Derby's got a lot. Stuff like that, but they have been sort of brought in and planted, and they are. I think, I don't know whether it's based on where we sort of sit. We're on a headland surrounded by Robot Bay. The other thing I should say is that the golf course sits right on the sort of tip of a headland, and Broome is built on a headland. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a funny town, mate. Like, it's got tiny air. It's got a tiny airstrip in the middle of it, like airport.
Yep.
And then everything's built around it. And then we're on the tip of the headland, and on one side, literally, you can see from one side, from the other, from the clubhouse.
Wow!
And one side's Roebuck Bay, a big bay.
Yep.
Surrounded by mangroves, and then the other side is sort of Riddell Beach, which connects up with Cable Beach, which I don't know if you've heard of.
But Cable Beach is a famous beach. It's one of those very popular places. That's why that's one of the reasons people. It's so beautiful. That's why people go to Broome. It's Cable Beach.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, there's lots of natural reasons that people visit that area, and the fact that I love that golf's complementary to the tourism thing. I think that's cool that it's available to people as well to spend a bit of time in Broome. What are there other things to do? You can experience golf while you're there, and that's cool. And it sounds like the wildlife is fantastic.
Mate,
all those things.
It's like Jumanji. I had this funniest when I was first here, right? Actually, I've got a few funny stories, but I won't. I'm gonna get. It's classic. Yeah, I love it. But it's one time we're sitting down. They were building the new clubhouse up the top of the hill. It's a big new clubhouse with a restaurant.
Okay.
We're sitting down the bottom, and I actually love that old clubhouse. It was the old greenkeeper shed, and they've just put some fridges in there, wooden bench, serving bottled beer and a sausage sizzle, and it was just so awesome. And
that's so Aussie, mate. That's so Australian.
Good. And that's the experience here, mate. Like as soon as everyone finishes golf, it's you put your thongs on because it's so hot. And everyone goes up there and has it. It's honestly, it's wicked. People take their golf seriously here. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, it's.
But then you got to live, right? That's the casual. That's how people live there because it's so damn hot.
Oh, it is. You have to. Yeah. After 18 holes of golf, especially in wet season, there's nothing like taking your golf shoes off to put some thongs on.
Surprised they haven't come up with spikes in thongs.
Yeah, no, right. There's a few people we've had to try and tell them not to wear them. But
anyway, sorry, we've interrupted your story.
Some element of dress code. but so there's we was down this bottom shed, and I'm sitting there one night with me, Des, who's 2IC, and I struggle to. I hate calling him 2IC because I feel like we're a real team, and I feel like that's belittling. But Des, we're sitting down here having a beer with a few guys who were like one of the hanger-oners, at the end of the ground after a Wednesday scroungers competition or whatever, having a beer. And I hear this weird noise like, rah, 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 from up above our heads. And I'm like, what's that? And they said, that's a snake smashing a frog.
What?
And I'm like, no, it's not. I thought they were having me on like the new guy.
Yeah, like the drop bears.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, it's not.
The drop bears of Bundaberg.
They're all like, serious? Yeah, no, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. So anyway, they get all their phones out. They shine it just above our head. There's this massive python just smashing this green tree frog just above our head, just digesting it, and it's just making this noise. And I'm like, what? we were down here. It was the recent flood last year when we had that 564 mils in 2 days. The whole shed got inundated, and then the snakes all go up into the walls. And then so the aircon in the office where all the computer, like all the motherboard and everything you run the retic out of, the aircon wasn't working. So we had to get the aircon guy in to come check the aircon. He's taken the aircon apart. It's this big snake just curled up in the aircon unit. We had to fish the snake out.
Oh, that's classic. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've got a few stories, but I better not. I better stop there because I know it's weird.
It's funny. People I love talking about these wildlife stories as well. Everyone's got them, right? It's the greenkeeper shed stories. You got pet snakes, you got pet animals. At Wentworth Falls, we used to have pet magpies, right? They'd nest at the same year in the same tree, and at the same time every year they would swoop you on certain machines, right? They'd go nuts. They were annoying because they would swoop you, they'd swoop golfers, and people would get the shits and all sorts of stuff. All right, in my office, right, in the shed, because a lot of people know Australia has a lot of different animals and a lot of various types and lots of deadly venomous animals as well. Pythons aren't deadly. They love feeding on lots of different other things. And that's a classic story of finding it in an air conditioning unit or it's a snake eating a frog. I mean, that's so cool. Above your head having a beer. In my office, in my shed, and we had an old shed I think it was built from the 50s at Katoomba, right? Yeah. And when we did some work inside the shed, building a new smoko room and so on, my office ended up being the old smoko room. And in that room, and this is no word of a lie, in the light fitting, I had a funnel web spider above my head. And its home was in the the fluorescent light fitting, right? So I used to have a funnel web sitting in that's where he lived. And I wasn't.
And you kept him there?
Yeah, I wasn't going to go near him. I'm not stupid.
They're super dangerous, aren't they? We don't get them over here.
No, well, they're the most deadly, the most venomous spider in the world.
Right. Yeah, no, I wouldn't go near it
That's
either.
all. No, I'm not going there. As long as I knew that that's where he lived, it was above my computer in the fluorescent light fitting. There was a funnel web spider, and you could see him sometimes. He'd stick his little feet out, and you knew. And we would get them in the shed. We'd have them in the, along the bottom parts of the thing. That was just part of that was our workplace. There's not much you could do about it because there's a lot of bush around us at Katoomba, and there was a lot of other vegetation nearby to the shed as well. But that was part of, everyone goes, oh, shit, spiders. And the Sydney funnelweb, it's called that because you only find it here in Sydney and in the Blue Mountains and the Central Coast. But I had a pet one in my office, and then we had a pet we had pet red belly black snake by the dam on 13. Every year you would see the same snake at the same time, and that's just where he'd curl up and sun. And we had a pet copperhead over on the 12th green, copperhead snake. It's just every golf course has these stories. I love it, and everyone's got them. And your story just then sounds so outrageous, and I'm sitting here just going, oh my God. But then I talk about having a funnel web in my office. Mate, Jason, I want to know, what's your favourite location on the golf course? What's one of the places you go, you know what, this is quintessentially Broome Golf Course. This is a great spot. I love seeing it at certain times of the day. What's a spot on the course you love the most?
So probably my favourite spot would have to be up at the clubhouse. I'd have to say, only because I love it, especially in the afternoons when I've finished playing golf. From my personal point of view, and I love to look over because it looks out over most of the course, and I can look there and sit there, and I remember what it looked like when I came, and you see it now, and it gives me such a good feeling. And the sun sets over sort of Cable Beach, and it just gives it the best light across the first.
That's unreal.
18th, 17th, all the trees, through the bush, and I just love to sit there and look at there just by myself. I often just stand there with a beer and just. That's so cool. Soak it in at the end of the week. Yeah, I love that.
That's so good. So when we visit, that's one of the spots. It's part of the clubhouse view, so we can take all that in as well as a visitor to the club, which is great to hear. And that's why I love to share these things so people can think about them when they get there. They can take the parts out there that in the golf course that we talk about and take it all in and really experience what it is about those areas. And mate, what makes Broome Golf Club and Broome Golf Course so unique, do you think?
I think it's got to be the environment. Like, if you're saying unique, it's got to be the environment. So, like we've been saying, the wildlife. In terms of playability, the greens are quite different in the way you play them.
Yep.
I think it adds an interest to the game.
Sure.
But in terms of the actual vibe of the place, it would be the environment. I love it in wet season when the storms roll in.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you've got thunder and lightning coming down, and sometimes it doesn't even rain. But it just lots of lightning here, and it's so unique. There wouldn't be too many places like it, and it's a good place to go enjoy a game of golf. The nature of it, really.
That's fantastic, mate. Like I said, I love to showcase that and talk about it so people get a real sense of what to take in. And mate, it sounds like an absolutely magnificent part of the country to be. And then one last thing I want to touch on briefly, if we can. It may not be so brief, but I'd like it to. You mentioned water supply. I know it's something I've talked about on a lot of other places and a lot of other things. What is your water supply there, and what keeps the golf course alive? What do you use?
So we run on effluent water.
So okay, great. So treated effluent water. So secondary use water.
Yes, secondary use water. There's actually a big issue with it at the moment. There was worries that the treatment ponds here and the treatment plant was leaching into Roebuck Bay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and Roebuck Bay is obviously there's sort of seagrass and things in there important to dugongs and stuff.
Sure.
So basically what came out of it was a long drawn out process, a lot of studies. They upgraded the treatment ponds and everything, but they eventually decided to move the treatment plant out to Broome North, like the other side. So now we no longer, as of next year, will have access to effluent water, which means we're going to be moving on to bore water, which is going to be provided by Water Corp, but at a large cost. And obviously, we've gone over maybe not so much of a large cost in terms of it's 25 cents a kilolitre, in terms of like that they run the pump shed and everything. But in terms of our usage, the amount of water we use, it's a significant increase in expenditure for the club.
Totally.
It's going to be interesting. So one big thing for us now is pushing for more. One thing I've been talking to the club about is making sure our retic system, which is very aged, getting on to 30 years old, which we have a lot of mainline breaks very regularly, and it's not very efficient, that we upgrade that. So we're looking into a full irrigation upgrade at the moment so we can get the most out of water where we need to, and save the club running in the wrong one, and also downtime for staff. So that's a big thing we're looking at the moment. We're contracting. We're talking to some irrigation designers, one of the big ones in WA down to south, drawing up some plans for us at the moment. Then it's going to be how we come up with that money. So, that's a big thing we're looking at the moment. Water is an issue here, but obviously from what we talked about, like it comes at once,
Yeah, so for sure.
It's about having that reliable source.
Well, I think it's great that the golf course is able to use secondary water use, which I think is so important on green spaces, and it also treats the water. The grass and the turf strip the nutrients out of that water before it goes through the soil as well. So it's another treatment process in the water itself. It will be much of a shame for you not to have access to that in the future at some point, whenever that is. And I don't know whether that can be a solution to gaining in time access to that as well. Who knows? But I'd shudder at the thought that you've got to go to a water supply that bore water or even storm water can be a much more helpful, but it'd be hard to store and it only comes in short bursts. So it has its problems, mate. I hope that's something the club can work through in the future. And upgrading the irrigation system itself to make it as efficient as possible in the short term is a great thing as well. And certainly, mate, love hearing about the golf course and all the qualities that you can experience at Broome, and it's certainly a lot more there than I was thinking you were going to tell me, mate. So it sounds quite fascinating and certainly quite interesting, and you clearly love working there and being part of the crew, leading your team and being part of the club as a whole, looking after and offering golf as a sport, as a leisure activity for the locals of Broome and visitors alike, mate. It sounds like you're very proud to be part of that.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't do anything else. I love it.
Fantastic. Well, look, Jason, I'm going to end it there on that interesting note about water and the future of that part of Broome, but certainly the highlights of the golf course and hearing about the features that we can enjoy when we play golf there. But also, mate, I really appreciate your openness with your story in all the different parts of you getting to that part of your career and becoming a superintendent in such a remote part of the country. Mate, it's a fantastic story. It's your story. It's very different to anything else that I've heard in talking to lots of people. But mate, something that you're a greenkeeper. And that was your path. And I say this to a lot of people that greenkeeping is a career path that has a lot to offer. And, take someone like you, and I've had a number of different chats where it's not a straightforward path to stay in it or get in it, but you clearly love it. And that's what I love to hear is your passion for it. So, mate, thank you for sharing. It's been wonderful chatting with you and certainly talking about Broome as well and what a beautiful part of the country it is, mate. So, mate, I wish you all the best in the future with everything that goes on there and all the other wildlife stories that you've got to come. and certainly leading the team and improving Broome Golf Club and Broome Golf Course as you continue to move forward, mate. So thank you very much, Jason. It's been fantastic chatting with you in such a wonderful part of Australia.
No worries. Thanks, Dave. I just wanted to say that's why, talking about the remoteness, that's why I got in touch with you. Like, I appreciate what you do so much, and keeping in touch with your podcast. I enjoy it every one which comes out. So that's why, mate. Yeah, you do a great job. Thank you, Steve.
No, mate. It's my pleasure and something that if anything, it's my way of trying to give back as well and keep people interested in learning and connect the industry and connect golf with the greenkeepers around Australia as well, mate. So you guys are part of the podcast, as I say. You're part of the story with all your stories, and it's something that we all clearly enjoy listening to and take heart in. So, mate, thank you for reaching out, and I'm so glad that you agreed to being on the podcast, mate. It's been fascinating chatting with you. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Steve.
How much fun was that? Seriously, how much fun was that yarn with Jason? You could tell I was having an absolute blast. I hope you guys had a good laugh and some chuckles along the way at some of the stories that are part of Jason's story in his career and his time being superintendent up at Broome Golf Club up there in northwestern Western Australia. A very, very unique part of this country of Australia. It's a wonderful tourist destination, and the fact that golf is there and it's available for people to enjoy whilst they're travelling in that region, through that region, for those who are driving, relentlessly around that part of the country on the really, really long drives through to different parts of the northwest. A great stop-off point to play golf. So, and thank you, of course, to Superintendent Jason Johnson for that yarn. He spent a great deal of time with me, as you know, on that podcast recording. I really thank him for his openness and in his personal story and his career's journey and all those bits and pieces and the different ways that he went around before getting back into greenkeeping and moving all over WA and all the bits and pieces he spoke about. There's a lot of personal stuff in there, and they're the sorts of things that I really want to say thank you to Jason for, and everyone as they continue to come on this podcast for those interviews in all their different backgrounds and walks of life. It's really appreciated by me and certainly by the listeners. So thank you to Jason. I really had a whale of a time, and that was one of the more fun and enjoyable conversations that I've had on this podcast. So thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it. Now, don't forget, guys, there's going to be bits and pieces in the show notes. So it's something that I include. I don't often mention it. I've probably got to mention it more. There will be some things in the show notes there that you can click to and link to, and all sorts of bits of information. And obviously, Broome Golf Club will be one of those links. So make sure you get into the show notes and have a look. And also, there's a few bits and pieces and some links to all sorts of other things that we've discussed in the podcast segment just then with Jason and I. So had a good time. I hope you guys had a whale of a time listening to it as much as I did. Like I said, really, really enjoyable, and this is just some of the stories that are coming out. The further I go to different corners of Australia and chat with different superintendents and greenkeepers, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm sure you are too, because everyone keeps telling me I've had some wonderful comments, wonderful emails. I really appreciate everyone reaching out and getting in touch, and please continue to do so, because that's how I know that you're listening. And the other way to ensure that it gets further out there and more people are listening and more people are enjoying these stories and other bits and pieces that I talk about in the Greenkeepers Shed, Walking the Fairways, Design Brief, which I've got some more architects coming soon. Aussie Golf History, as I mentioned, is coming out very, very soon with a new one. It's been 18 months in the making. Is to write a review. Please write a review on Apple Podcasts. Please put a star review in. They're the sorts of things. Share it around to people you think will be interested in this, because there's also learning points for your golf as well, as I start to bring some more of that, the Greenkeepers Shed, so that you can understand and learn how to read golf courses and pick up little things while you're out there playing golf as well. So look, lots of stuff coming, and there's been a lot of stuff in the works in the background. So whilst I haven't had them out recently, they are coming, and they will continue to be being released very, very soon. So guys, please make sure you stay on top of it. Click that subscribe button, whichever is your favorite listening podcast platform, and that way you'll get a notification as soon as I press publish on my end, and it will go out and feed out to your phones and your devices and your computers and say, bing, the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast has got a new episode. So please do so. I really appreciate that, all the commentary. And of course, don't forget about Colin Campbell Chemicals, the sponsors of this podcast segment, Keeper of the Greens, and of course, how good is Nadim's Nuggets? Loving that Nadim's Nuggets. And for the greenkeepers out there, there will be links in the show notes for that forum that's going to be happening in October in Melbourne, and it's something that's really, really exciting to be part of. I will be down there, so I'm really pumped to see so many people and catch up with a lot of faces and a lot of people that I haven't even met that I've spoken to on the podcast. So it's going to be really interesting, and make sure you get your tickets now, because they are selling very quickly. There's limited seats, as you've heard from Nadim. They're out there, so get the link that's in the show notes. I'm going to be putting some stuff up on socials as well, but we want you to be part of that forum that Colin Campbell Chemicals are part of, that they're bringing to you with their partners down there in Melbourne at Woodlands Golf Club at the end of October. I think the date is the 25th of October. So make sure you click that link and get your tickets to be at that forum, and I look forward to catching up with everyone down there. And as I said, the whole point of this podcast is, as I've said, everyone's going to be there. You're all celebrities. All the superintendents of golf courses and greenkeepers, you're all celebrities in my book, and you're all celebrities for golfers out there, because you provide the golf courses that we all love to enjoy and play. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you down there. So look, hey, get down, get your tickets, get involved, and it's going to be great fun. And don't forget, Colin Campbell Chemicals, of course, can help you with all of your turf solutions. Get to their website, campbellchemicals.com.au. Have to give a plug to our sponsors, and I'm very, very happy and excited to say that they're continuing sponsoring this segment, Keeper of the Greens, to be able to, so that I can keep bringing this to you guys, to your listening ears that you so enjoy listening to as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. I'm going to leave you with it, and I look forward to Aussie golf history coming out next time. That don't forget to click subscribe, because you'll want to hear this story. It's very, very interesting and very different, and something that it's blown me away. It's taken 18 months to put it together, and once I scratched the surface, I had to keep digging, and it's really quite incredible. Quite a fascinating story. Something that you're not going to expect either. So follow with me on that one. You will enjoy it, I'm sure. You hit them clean, we'll keep them green. I'll catch up with you very soon. Click subscribe, write a review. Thank you very much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.